So thus far we set up a lot about this effect and it's already taking shape here. You can kind of compare it with reducers, I guess. We have auth type here to check if a certain action occurred, and now we chain more observable operators to do something. The big difference to reducers is that we don't change our application state anywhere in this process. We just do something else. Well, we handle side effects in the end. We do something which depends on actions being dispatched, but which doesn't change our store. So now we know that we want to react to the try sign up action. Now we can do something with that information. First of all, I only need the payload of this action. So we can call map here to extract this. I know that I get the overall action as an argument here. ngrx passes this into all the other operators we chain after auth type. So this is the actual action which occurred. And therefore, I can in the end just use that. I know that this will be of type auth actions try sign up. And this happens to have a payload. I only am interested in the payload, so I can return action payload here. And due to the nature of the map operator, this will be wrapped into a new observable, so I can chain more observable operators after map. The next thing I want to do here is I want to use Firebase to try and sign the user up. For this I'll use switch map, and I need to unlock both map and switch map here. So rxjs add operator map and then do the same for switch map. Now switch map will get whatever I return here in map. So it will in the end get the action payload. So it will simply get my auth data, which is of type object, which has a username, which is a string, and a password, which is a string. So just to clear up some confusion, this is just the type definition here, the marked area. This is the type this auth data object will have. And now I can use this in my switch map. In here, we need to return a new observable in the end, because the add effect decorator expects to get an observable. And right now we're not returning one. We'll change this soon though. So switch map gets our auth data. The next step is to use Firebase. So I'll import everything as Firebase from Firebase here. And I also want to stick to the world of observables. So I want to turn the Firebase promise into an observable. Thankfully, the RxJS library provides a convenient method which allows me to do just that. It's called fromPromise, and it basically converts a promise into an observable. I do import it from rxjs/observable/fromPromise. It allows me to simply return from promise here, from promise. And now here, I will simply execute Firebase auth, create user with email and password, and pass auth data username, which is the email in the end, and auth data password. And this will again automatically turn this into an observable. So we return an observable here in the end. Now I know that as soon as this returns, without an error, I want to, set the user to signed up. And I want to get the token. So I can simply chain another switch map after this. This will be called whenever this promise here basically returns us a value. I'm not interested in that value though, but what I am interested in is I want to dispatch an action here. I also want to fetch the token thereafter. We can actually combine both by returning again from promise. Now this time Firebase auth current user get token, get ID token in the latest version of Firebase, which will again yield me a promise turned into an observable. Now I add switch map one more time. This time I do care about the value, it will be the token string. And now I can return a special object which will be handled by the ngrx effects package. If I return a JavaScript object here, and therefore I should use map here so that it gets converted into an observable automatically, I can set certain information on that object. I need a type here, the type of the action I want to dispatch in the end, and also, so what I will do is pull observables into one. I just need to import this here. So and with that here, I can now return an array of JavaScript objects, which will all be merged together or actually be sent back as observables, which will be handled by ngrx effects. So let me show you how to do it before I dive deeper into this. On this object, I want to set a type, which is the event or the action I want to emit. So from auth, which I need to import. So from the auth actions here, I want to emit the auth or just the sign up event here, of course, which has no payload. But I'll add a second object, which is the auth actions set token event, where I will specify a payload property too, and both property names are reserved. Type and payload, you have to use these because this will be handled by @ngrx effects in the end. So the payload here in the end is my token. So just the token, the string, this is what this action expects. So what I'm doing here is I'm returning an array in merge map, which will behind the scenes merge this into observables, and @ngrx effects will handle this due to this effect decorator on auth sign up. This will register this property or the value here on the right in the ngrx effects package, you could say, in that module. Will basically listen for any actions we have in our code. We'll then check the action type, and if it is of the type we specify here, it will continue. Then here we have a couple of transformation steps where we reach out to Firebase and create a user, then reach out and get the token, and then in the end, once we did all these things successfully, return a new observable, in this case with merge map, because I want to return two observables actually, or put two effects I want to dispatch as a result of this chain into one observable, to be precise. So here I emit or dispatch in the end an action sign up and an action set token. And that's an important thing about effects. At the end of your effects chain, you typically dispatch a new effect. If you don't do this, you can add configuration to the add effect decorator and set dispatch to false. But then you also must not emit any action here. Use this if you have a side effect which doesn't yield a new action in the end, which doesn't lead to a state change in the end. If you do have an action as we do here, where we do want to change our application store in the end, use the normal add effect decorator and return one action with the normal map operator, for example, or multiple actions with merge map in the end. So these are the side effects. Let's see if that works. We already changed it in the sign up component. So signing up should now only work through ngrx. So let's try this. Here I'll enter some credentials and this seems to work. The top bar here changed. We can also check out the values on the backend. Here, if I click on authentication, we see that new user. So this was created successfully. Now with that, let's add more side effects for signing in, for example.